Welcome to the Elevating Funeral Service podcast. If you want to run a successful funeral home, cemetery, or pet cremation service, you don't have to be the one that has the lowest price. You do need to be the one that offers the most value, provides the best customer experience, and clearly communicates that in your marketing. On this weekly podcast, Ellery and Welton will show easy ways to demonstrate value to families and create differentiation that helps you stand out from the competition. Hey everybody, welcome to the Elevating Funeral Service podcast. I'm your host, Ellery Bowker. I'm with my good friend and co-host, Welton Hong, and we are happy to be back. This is episode 27. If you remember, episode 26 was a month ago. Welton and I, probably unplanned, but we both have taken about a month to kind of wrap up 2021, wrap up stuff from 2021, kind of plan for, 2020. Happily get rid of that, plan for 2021. So, just to get kind of caught up real quick, Welton, kind of what was the end of the year look like for Ring, and what have you been doing for about a month?
I've been strategically planning a lot. It's like, since there's not a whole lot of trade shows going on, I use that time to build up basically trying to map out 2021, where we're going to go to. And then we start hiring to staff up. So we are onboarding so we're going to be a little more than 80 headcounts shortly.
Wow.
So we just started hiring, because hiring good people take forever.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, let's try to fill everything in the first quarter. Then we don't have to worry. It's all training there afterwards. So we don't have to worry too much about hiring. Yeah. So
well, you're
spend a lot of time in hiring.
You're gonna need name tags. Hello, that's awesome. Well, look, when you were focusing on like setting your goals for next year, was it just kind of like growth goals or just employee development, or what were you guys kind of focused on?
So very interesting is obviously will be in, growth in number of clients we're supporting, but also making sure that so we're having first level managers, second level managers now, making sure that they are trained on how to lead teams and manage people. So we focus a lot in the last month or two coming out with a managerial guide, handbook. If you're new managers, these are the books you need to read and watch. And we have people manager meetings every week. So it's fun just growing headcounts, like totally different. If you have that many employees to maintain the culture. That's
awesome though, because, when you've got that many people on your team, you're going to have be able to kind of just really focus on what they do best. For us, I kind of made a goal in 2021 that, we're going to kind of go an inch wide and a mile deep, meaning that, we're going to grow, but we're not going to expand a lot of things horizontally, right? We just want to drill down and get really, really good at what we do.
Right.
One of the things in 2020 that we did, because we couldn't go anywhere, which is just weird and good all in the same time. But what we did was we really kind of leaned in and we focused on our own customers, and we got to know our customers better, which led to more insights, which led to better product development. So we really just want to focus on just what we do and kind of just do it better than anyone else.
Best in class.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for us, the fourth quarter was interesting. For some of you that haven't heard the announcement, our company was actually acquired at the end of November by Tukios, which we could not be more excited about it. Aftercare and Tukios, the companies are very similar in culture. The products are very similar. I mean, they're a simple solution. They do one thing. We do it better than anyone else at a value proposition that's just often called a no-brainer. Right. So Curtis and I, the founder of Tukios, we've known each other for over 10 years now, and we've always talked about working together. And so, one thing led to another, and we started exploring some ideas, and we put the deal together, and we are just really, really jazzed about 2021. It's going to be great we have a lot of shared customers, but for those that are not shared customers, we're going to be, kind of cross-selling and just kind of really promoting each other. And so it's going to be really good. So we're really excited about it. So, but I can tell you that it's been just a crazy couple of months. I mean, just, the teams all getting together and, kind of learning their product, them learning our product. And man, it just feels like like the last 30 or 45 days has just been a whirlwind.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you must be super busy, but yet rewarding and fun.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And so yeah, we've added some staff here as well. And I know they're onboarding people like crazy.
Right,
And kind of like what you're doing, it's like we've onboarded a couple developers, and it's just so nice to be able to say, look, just you focus on this one project,
right.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
one thing we've always tried to do is just kind of when we hire people is say, look, you own this project, right?
Right.
Like you own this and go do this, and give them the autonomy to go do it. And if you hire the right people, then you're able to get that done. So far, I'm loving that. So that's super exciting. So yeah. But okay, well, good. What we're going to talk about today on episode 27 for the audience, we're going to be talking about obviously the new year, and a lot of people made predictions about 2021, what they think is going to happen, and some of them are far fetched, some of them are super believable. But the one thing you and I talked about, Welton, was three things that the funeral homes are going to absolutely have to focus on.
Oh yeah,
They
no
can choose
choice.
to, right? They can choose to or not. But these are
Mm-hmm.
going to be three things we're going to talk about today that we think funeral homes really ought to spend a lot more time,
Right,
right? And
definitely.
for those things they're not good at, either go get good at it, or go partner with another company that is good at it. But either way,
Right,
whether it's do it yourself or do it for me, or however you get it done, it's just going
right.
to have to get done.
Oh
So
yeah,
real quick, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about online reputation, we're going to talk about search, and we're going to talk about the digital solutions, that the tactical side, what funeral homes ought to be doing for families
right.
today. So why don't we tee it up this way? Well, why don't we talk
Okay.
about the first one? So we think both you and I are in agreement that online reputation. Um, Last year, I remember at the beginning of the year, I said there's probably nothing more important than online reputation.
Still
And
the same.
it's still the same. And every day it becomes more and more and more important. Like, I
I
don't
agree.
think there's going to be a plateau here for a while. I think it's going to
No.
continue to become more and more important, right? Like
Right.
your online reputation needs to stand in your place, right? So if you can't
Right.
talk to the family directly and sell them on why they need to choose you, your online reputation has to do that for you. So
Right.
talk about that, if you will, Welton. Why
Yeah.
why do you think it's important, and kind of what are some of the
Definitely.
strategies that they need to take to really make sure
Yeah.
they're maximizing that?
Right. So I will say the most critical thing here is you want to be the first one to win this call, but most likely they will
But
be
wait a minute, what do
checking.
you mean by that?
Yeah. So meaning that if they somehow heard you online, it's phone and friend, or they found you on search, for example, but most likely before they call you, they want to check out how legit are you, right? We do it all the time. If we're looking for plumbers, roofers, even a friend referred me to ABC Roofing Company, I still want to check them out.
Right.
Are they legit? I want to check out their Google reviews, Yelp reviews, just to make sure, hey, everybody else says they're the best.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like very interesting is if you have a lot of good reviews, when they call you, like if using the roofing example, roofer, if I already know they have a lot of reviews, that means everybody else says they're the best. So when I call them, I already preempted, hey, there's a lot of trust signals already. Everybody trusts you. I
Right.
don't need to screen you, ask you a lot of questions.
Right.
And when you charge a little more than others, if I am a so-called price shopper, but at least I will trust you even more now, even if it's a little more expensive, everybody else says you're the best, right? To me, it's like almost no brainer. It's like literally free. This is like
Yeah.
one of those strategies, literally free. And there's so many, if I go back and look at, I'm not going to name names, but some of the corporate companies 3 years ago, they have a lot of negative reviews. They typically will be like
What companies did you say?
corporates,
Oh,
some of
corporate.
the
Right. Gotcha.
corporate owned funeral homes or cemeteries. They typically will have like 2.5, 3 stars. But if you look at those same funeral homes these days in cemeteries, they typically have hundreds of reviews. I'm not even kidding, hundreds of reviews, and typically at least 4.5 stars and above.
Yeah. They
Back
stepped up.
then, the independently owned typically will have more and higher quantity and quality than the corporate. But the corporate owned, they really jump on this in the last 2 years. It didn't happen overnight,
Right.
right? But they jump on it. They know this is coming.
Right.
So if you look at most of your corporate-owned funeral homes in the local market these days, that's going to be the benchmark.
Right.
check out how many reviews they have. Now you have no choice to compete on reviews now.
Yeah. It's interesting too. And I'll say this kind of publicly, I've always been a really decisive person. Like I can make a decision, no problem, right or wrong. I'm living with it. But the older I get, the more anxiety I have. I know this sounds kind of crazy, right? But I get anxious about things. And I remember this is kind of a funny story, but I've always been really good at making decisions. We built a house a few years ago, and the guy was coming out there to put the pipe for the mailbox.
Right.
And Welton, I was paralyzed. I'm like, do I want to put it here? Do I want to put it over here? Or put it here? And it was just this little decision, you know what I mean? But I was anxious about that. So I'm literally Googling, where do you put, when you build a house, where do you decide where you put your mailbox? Anyway, I said all that to say that when it comes to spending money, nobody wants to feel like they made a bad decision.
No.
Nobody wants to make a bad decision. And so what I look at these reviews as, which I'm sure many people do, is it's just like, like a proxy, right? So it's going to be like, you tell me, okay, if everyone else trusts them, then I feel secure. My anxiety is lower. I can make that decision comfortably. And if I choose to go this low cost rate or this low review, provider, then I probably know what I'm going to get. And it's probably my own fault. You know what I mean? So basically what it's doing is it's you're really kind of outsourcing the decision to the crowd. So I feel totally comfortable buying from companies that everybody else said is good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially if you look at how Google ranking works, Google is factoring in, not a surprise, right? Why would Google be recommending on first page of Google a non-legit funeral home?
Yeah.
It's heavily weigh in more and more towards its algorithm now.
Yeah.
You got to get more reviews.
Yeah. No, it's I think from all angles, I think the online reviews are awesome.
Oh yeah.
For me as a consumer, for me as a business owner, all of them, right? Because it just sort of selectively filters out what is good.
Right.
Just naturally it does that. And and obviously Google's going to show those best because if Google shows you crappy results, you're not going to come back and use Google. You know what I mean? You lose trust in Google. So it's awesome. Yeah, I think that online reputation will 100% be more important at the end of 2021 than it is right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now, would really always call this, it's a true unfair advantage you can have. It truly is unfair because you might have, now if you have 200 reviews, most of the competitors only have 50 or 30. It's like, that's unfair advantage you have.
Yeah.
Right. Most people opt to go with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Too, one thing too is it can also be the great equalizer. So let's say that I'm an upstart. Let's say that I don't have a big location on a main road, right? I'm kind of off the beaten path a little bit. And so prior to these reviews or prior to the internet, right? Like they had the unfair advantage, right? Because the competitor may be out there. But now if somebody is, maybe not, they don't, they're not from that area or something. And now, basically what they're doing is Google's kind of that main road now. You know what I mean? And if you're the one with all the reviews, then you're the one with the big building everyone is seeing all the time.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then let me ask you this. So we know online reputation is important. What's like one thing funeral homes can do, starting right now to increase that?
Ask. Get comfortable in asking.
Got it.
You have to get comfortable.
Right. Yeah. And how do you recommend they ask? So I've served a family now. And by and large, most families that funeral homes serve are going to love them, right? So if you ask them, they'll probably do it. But what's your tactic? How do you ask them?
My thought is, first of all, the pre-need families, you got no excuse for not asking reviews. They're happy.
Yeah.
It's not impolite or anything. It's not taboo to ask the pre-need families for reviews.
Yeah.
That to me is, there's no excuse not to ask the pre-need families for reviews.
Well, what would you say though? So are they asking them in person, text, email, a letter? How are they doing this?
All of the above. Right.
All of the above. Okay.
Right. I think the simplest would be, if you're shy, then of course using one of the texting software to ask for reviews, or sending an email to simply request for a feedback.
Yeah.
Me personally, I would typically, my framework is, even at needs or pre-needs, if I do run a funeral home, the morning after the service, I would call up the families just to check in with them, just to make sure they're happy.
Yeah.
If they aren't happy with the service, at least you stopped a negative review from going online.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. And if you're happy, then you could just ask them, hey, really appreciate if you can go on Google and leave us a feedback.
Yeah.
But that call is mainly to stop negative reviews from even appearing on Google or Facebook or Yelp.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't even thought about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's interesting too, because what funeral home owners maybe are a little bit skittish about doing, they're going to have to get comfortable doing it.
You have to.
You know, or they're going to have to outsource it, right, to some company that can help them. But either way, you're right. Those families have to be asked, because let's say that if you're a 100-call firm, and, you know, let's say that 95% of the people love you, which they should, or you need to change your business. If you don't ask, you may not get any reviews.
No.
Right? Any.
No.
And let's say your competitor does the same number of calls and they ask, they could literally get 20 reviews. Or 30 even. And then all of a sudden somebody goes on Google and they search for funeral homes in your area. And then they see that, you know, your competitor's got 20 reviews all within the last year. And the last one you had was from a year and a half ago.
Right.
I mean, automatically, just right in front of your eyes, that competitor is going to have the better chance of at least getting the phone call. Right. And whether they win that call or not, that's up to them, but they'd at least get, I would think they would get more calls.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So the second thing that funeral homes need to focus on is going to be search. So talk about that.
Right. So I think if you look at most of your own behavior, whenever you don't know anything or whenever you're looking for any type of services, you will grab your little tiny device from your from your pocket. You'll be using Google. You'll be Googling, for example, restaurant near me, roofers near me. So search really is to address those who are already problem where they have intention.
Right.
And more so-called undecided families, they're going to go on Google.
Right.
And whoever does appear on first page of Google, typically the discount brands, they're the one that's siphoning calls away from you.
Yeah. And they're doing it intentionally, right? Yeah. So I think that the underlying message here, I think, Welton, needs to be that it's pay to play. Right. Like, I mean, you can try, you know, SEO, search engine optimization. I mean, that's about as bland a word as you could get now, you know, and if people are telling you that through SEO, they'll get you to the number 1 spot. I wouldn't walk away from those people. I would run because they're going to take your money and they're not going to give you anything. At the end of the day, Google's a business, right? And they make all the money in the world, right? Because they've created the platform that puts the product and providers in front of you the moment you need it. So if I need a carburetor for a 67 Volkswagen, they can match me up with who sells that carburetor in 2 seconds. Exactly. And that's just incredibly valuable, right? So that, you know, Google is in business to make money, right? They're a for-profit corporation. So if you want to be at the top of Google, you know, you have to write a big check sometimes, depending on the market and the keywords you're going after. But at the end of the day, you need to get yourself either educated on how to do it yourself, which is not easy, or you need to work with a company that specializes in it and that can help you go after what you want to go after, right? They can make your dollar go a lot farther. I'll put it that way, right? You're not going to go after, they're going to, you know, talk to you about what your goals are, what type of client you're going after. And then they know how to get those keywords, those key phrases, and they know how to bid on those. And basically it's an auction system, right? So you're going to bid to be at the top of that. But at the end of the day, you know, if you're not paying, if you're not using Google AdWords, right? If you're not, it's called PPC, pay per click. If you're not using that as part of your strategy, 100% you're missing calls. Oh yeah. 100%. Right. Even if your call volume is up from last year, it's still not up as much as it could be if you were doing PPC. Is that a fair statement?
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Right. And that transcends industries, right? That's not unique to funeral service. That's anything. I mean, I've got a friend of mine who's a dog groomer and she's using Google AdWords because people are searching for dog groomers, right? She wants to be the one that's up there. And she knows, look, she's found on Google. Even if she doesn't pay, she's found on Google, but it's down here, right? And it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if she's the number 1 organic result. If someone's paying to be above her, they're going to click that first. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. So search is super important. And the last thing that funeral homes need to focus on that we'll talk about today is going to be just your digital solutions, like what
Right.
tools you're using now to do business in 2021 that
Mhm.
you didn't use at the beginning of
Right.
2020.
Right.
Some of the things that you had to pivot to as a funeral home owner, where you maybe thought they were band-aids,
Mhm.
right? In 2020, like, oh, we can't have services, we need to go online.
Mhm.
It's what you thought maybe was temporary,
Right.
cannot be temporary.
No, it's time to invest towards
Yeah.
hardware and software.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
let's dive into that. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about like streaming, for example. Streaming
Yes.
should not be optional, or it
Nope.
should not be either you have it or you don't. Everybody should be offered that.
Right. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Streaming
Uh,
for sure.
so I think streaming. I think that online planning, right? I think that virtual arrangements,
Right.
ought to have it. So you ought to be able to do everything online. But the one thing that you and I talked about that I think is really critically important to really, harp on, if you will, is just invest in it. So talk about that for a minute.
The hardware. I think the hardware is something I would definitely focus on first. Right. Many of the funeral homes, their computer laptop could be 5 years old,
Yeah.
and they're not apt to streaming. Your basic your internet. I would definitely invest towards a better internet. Um,
Yes.
Definitely faster speed, getting better hardware. And laptops are not expensive anymore.
Yeah.
$1,000, you can get a very, very good laptop with a webcam, everything
Right.
out of the box, ready to use
Right.
already. So definitely hardware will be laptop, get a new laptop or desktop, invest in a good webcam. But like people are expecting you to be professional these days,
Right.
right? Like in the arrangement room, you spend a lot of money on the arrangement room.
Right.
That's the same thing digitally now.
Yeah.
People are actually looking at your screen in the background, everything too, right? So you have to be really investing in just higher levels of curation. Yeah.
I think that is so important, Welton, because if you think about this, let's say that you're now going to be doing an arrangement conference online
Right.
and your lighting is poor, your sound is terrible. So let's imagine that this was in person and someone comes into your arrangement room and 3 of the 4 lights are out, and you're talking through a sock. You know what I mean? It's just like it would be a terrible, crappy experience. You never do it. So you need to really spend as much time making that virtual
Right.
conference
Right.
as good as it can be. And
Exactly.
by gosh, just spend the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that much,
No,
right?
expensive.
$1,000, $2,000. I mean, you can buy a darn near a supercomputer now for a couple $1,000s. I mean, it'll
Yeah.
do everything you ever want to do.
Oh yeah.
And the one thing that I'm going to say is just go buy the best internet that your provider offers.
Mm-hmm.
Don't scrimp on that. There's
Yeah.
nothing worse than people's voices getting choppy because you're buffering, or it is an absolute terrible experience
No.
on that. They say that in video that your video is judged by your audio.
Right.
Let's say you could have 8K audio or video, right?
Mhm.
Perfect video, but if your audio is terrible, that's all you're going to remember.
Right.
You could have great lighting, right? You could have the perfect suit on, you could have makeup on, you could
Right.
have everything. And if your internet is terrible and that
Right.
thing starts being choppy,
Mm-hmm.
right, or buffering, it just ruins all of it. Like nothing else you've done matters because you couldn't do the main thing, which
Right.
was, be able to stream in real time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and,
And
and you know
definitely,
what?
yeah.
Internet's not even that expensive.
No, it's not.
I mean, my
Right.
son is in Raleigh and he's got just like 300 or 400 megabytes down for like, and up, right? It's synchronous for like $70.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's
No.
nothing. It's
Right.
nothing. But if you're, I don't care where you are. If you look at your internet provider and they've got package, A, B, and C,
Mm-hmm.
good, better, and best, buy the
Right.
best.
Yeah.
Call
Definitely.
tomorrow morning and upgrade to the best.
Oh yeah. The experience is so different. It's a lot more efficient for sure. For your team even to be serving the internet, they're just much faster. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing to me, Welton, is this is just a matter of making the decision that's important to you.
All right.
Because you can go to Google and say how to set up, a webcast that looks good. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Or like, what should your lighting look like? I mean,
Right.
there are millions of videos out there right now on how to use Zoom, how to look better on Zoom, how to create a
Mm-hmm.
better experience. And so if you think about it from not from the funeral owner standpoint, but from that consumer standpoint,
Right.
like how can I make this the best experience for that family?
Right.
And then go figure it out.
Yeah.
I
It's not
mean,
hard.
Yeah, I mean, our customers are super smart people.
Yeah. Oh,
They
yeah.
just got to go take the time
Right.
to go learn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And believe me, that's not something either that you want to outsource. Like
No.
you can outsource the technology, like the streaming service. You don't want to try to host a streaming service on your computer, right? I mean, use Facebook Live or YouTube Live or
Yeah.
something like that.
Mhm.
But, don't expect someone else to come in there and set your stuff up. Like the more because you know what's going to happen, that family is going to judge you on how that experience is.
Right. Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So what else? So obviously faster internet connections, better cameras.
Oh, yeah.
What
Definitely.
kind of cameras do you recommend? Like, I mean, like I've got this is a Logitech, like, I don't know,
Those
150
are good.
bucks or something. And
Those are very good already. Yeah, I
yeah,
just upgraded a little bit to a little bit nicer Sony, but it's your typical webcam. They're pretty good these days. $50 to $70, you can get pretty decent webcams these days.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. What else then on the digital side for
Yeah.
funeral homes, like online planning?
Definitely online planning dot like really map out the consumer journey. If they cannot come in, right? Ideally you want them to come in, and most of you already map out that whole consumer journey from start to finish. Most of you perfected that already. But now is think through the same scenario. Now they cannot come in. Map out that journey. Really, just do the parallel. Write down just piece of paper. Really map out if they were to come in versus they have to do it digitally. Map out step by step, and figure out any of these. Are there any solutions out there, such as DocuSign, right? Such as ID viewing tool, online ID viewing tool. Are there any digital solutions, online checkout, right? You don't need a lot of fancy stuff. There's a lot of these bolt-on things. There's a lot of providers in the death care space already.
Yeah. I did a presentation on this last year at a convention, or I guess 2019 at a convention. But the one thing we talked about was understanding what consumers expect,
Right,
not what you want to offer them.
right.
So I think about something like DocuSign. Like I just bought a rental property, and it's incredible how much money you can spend and never meet anybody. You know what I mean? Like I just clicked a couple things and drew my name on a screen, and boom, there's a ton of money out the door. But like I would expect anybody, I would expect just about, well, let me say it this way. Every day I'm expecting more and more companies to just offer DocuSign.
Yeah.
Right? It's perfectly legal. The courts all accept it. Why wouldn't you be using it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's normal. Yeah.
Sign up for the service, upload your documents.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy to do. And you're going to make that customer's life so much easier. You're going to make your life so much easier,
Yeah.
right? You're not faxing things, right? This is 2021. You're not faxing things. They're not having to run down to Staples to get the fax and fax it back, and just send it to them. They can sign it on their phone,
Yeah.
right? IDs, like a lot of cremation companies now are doing the IDs on their phone.
Yeah. Right.
It's very, very easy to do. And it's all secure, right? They'll show the picture, and the picture will dissolve after a few seconds. So it's not going to be online.
Yeah. It's like Snapchat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Snapchat, right? It's an ephemeral image. It's just going to go away. But yeah, so think about it. My suggestion to the funeral owners would be to think about it from the consumer's perspective, not what they want to offer.
That's right.
So, do you expect consumers do consumers expect online planning?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you buy a car. I just bought a house online.
Right.
I would expect I can plan, for this event
Right.
online. Do consumers expect to be able to sign online, right? Do they expect to be able to see pricing, right? We've
Right.
talked about that 100 times. Do they expect to see merchandise online, right? I think consumers expect now, Welton, to control the journey.
That's right.
Right? Like they want to be able to control the experience. And so I think if we, as business providers and funeral homeowners, I think if we create that experience, actually it creates less work for us, right? Because they're doing a lot of the work and they're happier, right? Because we've just created those tools in place. So yeah, well, this is good, Welton. We'll kind of wrap this one up. We won't go too long here, but I mean, there's 25 different things we all should be focusing on in 2021, but hitting the high points, I think, focusing on your online reputation, know where you're at, right? Know how many reviews track this stuff, right? Know how many your competitors have. Go to Google like you're a consumer, and look at it and say, okay, I'm looking from a consumer's eyes right now, right? Through their lens, what am I seeing?
Yep.
Right?
Google your home. Google your own funeral home and see what pops up on first page of Google.
Yeah. And if you're not happy with where you're at, fix it.
Yeah.
right? And the only way you can fix it is by asking those people to give you an online review.
All right.
So search, I mean, I'm just going to say that, come off the wallet, pay.
Yeah.
Get with somebody that knows what they're doing. Don't, I would probably advise not doing it yourself. You can, if you want to learn, but there's a lot more to it. It's very complex. I would say just find a good company you trust, on a good reputation, and then budget that. Budget a portion of your marketing budget to that, and then make sure that you're giving yourself the best chance. If anyone in your area is searching for a funeral home, make sure your name is in the hat. Right. Make sure you're at least in the running to get that call. And if you don't pay, you're likely not even going to be in the running. And you could be the best option for that family, but they don't even know who you are. Yeah. And the last thing, just invest heavily, I think, in your digital tools.
Right.
Whatever like you said, map that journey, whatever that family would be doing in person with you. What does the online counterpart look like? If you don't have that available, go make it available. If there's some tool you don't have to get it, go get that tool. Just figure out, let's just, play it another way. Well, and let's just say you could never meet a family in person again. How would you continue in business? You either create a complete online experience, right, that was as good or better than what you've had offline, or you'd go out of business. So think about it from that aspect. Awesome. Cool. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's fun. Yeah, I'm just excited for 2021.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back recording these podcasts. So we're going to keep this more on a regular schedule now. We've got some really good episodes coming up. We have an episode, I believe, hopefully we're going to do this next week. If not, it's coming in the next couple of weeks. But we've got a couple of people coming on. They're going to talk to us about the importance of reaching out to and working with the LGBTQ community. And I hope I said that right. Going to be reaching out to, so that community as your customer, right? And then people in that community in the workforce. That's going to be a great episode. We've already talked to these guys before, and it's just really fascinating to think about that and what some of the pros are if you adopt an open mindset, and some of the cons if you don't, right? Because it can definitely affect your business one way or the other. So anyway, that's going to be a great episode. We're going to also talk next couple episodes about some ways that you can differentiate from your competitors, because I forgot who said it, but I read something the other day I thought was pretty interesting. They said, don't do things differently, do different things.
Okay.
I wish I knew who said that. But yeah, I thought it was neat. Like, don't do the same thing, just slightly different. Go do something different, be the purple cow. How do you do that? Right. And when, as things are becoming more competitive, you need to be able to stand out from that competition. So we're going to give you guys some good ideas on how you can do that as well. And then, of course, we're going to talk about some marketing and then some other stuff. We also have a great episode that we're working on right now, which is going to be, should a funeral home, this is actually going to be two parts, but should a funeral home invest in putting in a crematory? Right? Like, I mean, that has to be on the forefront of a lot of their minds right now, right? Cremation is becoming the majority of their business. You are now outsourcing it to a third party, right? You're leaving money on the table because you're doing that. So one part of the episode is going to be like, should I do it? So mathematically, here's a formula you can look at, like, does it make sense financially to do it? And then second is going to be like how to do it, because it's not like buying a hearse that rolls up and they drop it off. You've got regulations, right? You've got, permits, you've got all kinds of stuff. So we're going to talk with a couple of experts about what that process looks like. So if I want to buy a crematory, A, B, C, D, E, what are the steps to doing that? And then what are some of the roadblocks and hurdles that you might run up against and how to overcome those? So we got a lot of episodes planned. Majority of these episodes that we do come from feedback from you, the listener. So if you have anything that you would like us to discuss, talk about, if we can talk about it from our own personal experience, we're happy to do that. Otherwise, we'll try to go find somebody that is smart in that area and bring them on to, to try to help you. But we really would like to know what you guys think. So if you could shoot us an email, it's welton@ringringmarketing.com or ellery@aftercare.com, and just say, hey, look, here's an idea, talk about this, that'd be great. Or I'm struggling with this. Anything we can do to help would be great. But the ideas are really wonderful. So
love the feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, a little self-serving. If you found value in this episode or any of them up to now, if you wouldn't mind going on the Google Play Store or iTunes or Spotify, wherever you listen, and leaving us a review, that would be super helpful as well, because that helps us, when people are searching for funeral podcasts, which not a lot of you are. But if if anyone is, we want to be the best. So on that. So anyway, if nothing else, Welton, we'll catch up with them next week.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Awesome.
Bye-bye.
All right. See you, everyone.